Good morning and welcome back to the social listening segment here on the BDTV Breakfast Show. This is where we get to track some of the stories making the round across social media. My name is Elizabeth Musa and I've got
Onyeka Valentine right here
in the studio today. So we begin with Democracy Day, where peaceful protests took place across major cities, especially in Lagos. In Maryland, Lagos, hundreds of citizens gathered to mark Democracy Day, not with celebration but with chants and placards. Now, the demonstration began in the early hours of the morning on June 12th, and protesters called for better governance, security, and relief from the rising cost of living. As the crowd grew, so did the traffic. Security operatives were present, quietly observing, but there were no reports of violence or arrest. By midday, the protests had moved from Maryland to Ojota's Gani Fawehinmi Park, and in Abuja, a similar protest was held around the Apo area. Now, we're talking about, the turnout. Some will say maybe suggesting a growing sense of urgency among citizens, but I would like to know, Valentine, what are your thoughts? What do you make of this protest? Is it just something that we should expect every Democracy Day?
Elizabeth, if you look at it closely, you will see that there is some form of so there is what we call positive input in this. What does it signify? That Nigerians have become more mature. We are moving out of the idea of it being focused on, Abiola. We are moving further than that. We are now in a position where June 12th is no longer just seen as something to remember what happened when the election then was annulled, but as a point of contact to hold whoever, again, I didn't say this or that, whoever is in office. Let's not forget that at that time, Bola Tinubu, who was within the supporting crew of Abiola at that time, was also with the whole, no, Abiola won and everything. So fast forward now, 2025, we still see a peaceful protest every June 12th. It's to remind us that we as Nigerians can now hold anyone accountable who's in office. So that's a good sign. And to even cement that whole idea, we'll say, not just hold you accountable, right? Make you draw out reports on yourself, how far you've been, how far you've done. And to remind every other person around that, look, even if a particular party is in power as a ruling party, doesn't mean that opposition parties should be swept under the carpet. Which brings me to my next statement. On the flip side, if you look at the protest, they printed placards, well written. They printed banners, well designed. Do you know how much a banner costs right now? That's no small money. Okay, I could see bottle and water, sachet water, organized when we had some of them wore t-shirts, which means it was bankrolled.
So by whom?
Yeah, that's a good question now. So by whom? Who is bankrolling it? Is it the opposition party? Is it, definitely is not syrup. Okay, definitely not. So whoever it is, could it also be, again, allegedly, could it also be within the ruling party saying, let's give the public something to hold on to? So every June 12th, how much you guys need? Let's put this money into this thing, right? Hold us accountable, even though we might not give account of what we've done, but let there be some form of balance. You see, politics is a very strange thing. It could use people to achieve its goal. And as much as we know that government is of the people, for the people, and by the people, this one explains why it is by the people. But again, will it last the taste of time? Are we going to get out of this protest, right, a breakdown formula where we can now say, after June 12th, 2 months after, accountability narrows on someone who might have had some misappropriation of funds and brought out to light and sent to court from any arm of government, right? If we can get, I wouldn't say this was scapegoat, but if we can get someone who the EFC has said, we have narrowed this person, whoever the person is stealing public funds, right? So this person is going to court thanks to other agencies doing their job, preempted by June 12 protest. So it will mean that every year the protest will have meaning.
Okay.
It will mean that every year the protest will not only hit the nail on the head, it will also create room for healthy, I won't say unhealthy, healthy panic for those who plan on stealing money. No, look, if you steal money, June 12 protest will come out, your name will be underlined there. We want accountability for this. We want this, we want that, we want that. Good governance, security, healthcare. Let there be something that will come out of each protest. So I don't know if the agenda of this year's protest, because next year is going to happen again. If, for instance, you could have said, okay, Democracy Day, as an underlying statement or phrase, they could say a major focus on healthcare. Okay, so let's investigate and know why more people. Why do we have mortality rate very high? Why? What's going on? Why are people dying so quickly in the hospitals? Are doctors doing what they have to do, or are the best brains being flown abroad, and the ones left? What is the plan? The following year could be okay. Democracy Day. We are protesting to know the money spent on the subsidy removal. Where did the money go to? So there must be a narrowed, aim to say, with this protest, we want to bring to light this particular issue that's been swept under the carpet.
But you know what? Let's see some of the reactions on social media, because I see you're getting really passionate. Let's see what our listeners, our audience on social media is saying. Now, Akata says, this is how it should be. I think that's someone that is also seeing things from your point of view. Hamza says, police come full everywhere, like say now what day. Let's see more reactions. Sir Peace Kid says, June 12. If democracy is not only about elections and institutions, but also seen as protection of rights, dignity, and future of the next generation, then why is it becoming so hard to be observed? And how it ought to be, prior to its meaning and core value. Omoba says, this is how police should be trained. Make sure protesters are protected against any form of intimidation. If Nigerian police have been like this for so long, everybody will want to be friends to police officers. Ireo, KB has that to say. Well, that's how people are reacting to this conversation. But let's move now to a developing dispute between a federal lawmaker and a major airline. Now, Senator Adams Oshiomhole has accused Air Peace of extorting passengers after he was reportedly denied boarding despite checking in online. Now, he claimed others were allowed on the same flight, but only after purchasing new tickets for as much as 250,000 naira. In a letter to the Minister of Aviation, Oshiomhole described the experience as widespread exploitation within the aviation sector. Air Peace has responded, strongly denying these allegations. The airline insists that the senator arrived late and caused a disruption. They are now calling for the release of airport CCTV footage to clarify what happened. Before I come to you, Valentine, to hear your thoughts, let me see what people are saying online. Of course, that's a video rolling also of some of the disruption that occurred, maybe in the airport, authorities, that you can see passengers in line and people that were probably agitated about it, because I mean, imagine having to delay flight because a lawmaker or someone in government who was supposed to, I mean, you might as well have picked up a private jet or just your own private sort of transportation from point A to point B, instead of just making things. But it's okay to do that. But let's see some of the reactions on social media to this conversation. Charles says, but the flight should have waited for him now. After all, he's a senator. You can't treat him like an ordinary citizen. I don't know if that person is being serious or being sarcastic. But let's see more reactions. Great Oracle says, the indecent and unruly conduct of Oshiomhole is criminalized by Section 85 of the Civil Aviation Act of 2022. Oshiomhole should be arrested, arraigned, and jailed for breaching the law. No citizen should be more important than other citizens. And that person had to, mention Festus Keyamo in the conversation to take action. More reactions. Juba says, will this change anything? Well, who knows? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, it's happened already. Me says, Tingomi, some of these handles on social media. Tingomi_fire says, as a lawmaker, there is absolutely no justification for his unruly conduct of disrupting flight operations. Ordinarily, it should be in a holding cell, waiting to appear before a judge, as senators have no immunity against prosecution. The security should get a query for allowing him. I think that's as much reactions as you can take. Then we take your reaction, because I know you have a lot to say about this one.
Okay, now let us lay this fact on the table. When I said I was going to make a case for him, I meant to say that on the flip side, so I look at it from both angles, because there's always a backstory to this thing.
Okay.
First and foremost, those in glass houses should not throw stones. Let's not forget. Now, this is me being on the fence.
So who is in glass houses now?
Oshiomhole.
Okay.
Now, I will now come back to the part where what I want to say, the next part will obviously kind of favor him. But let's start with the one that, people have been ranting over social media, saying that he broke the law. Now, again, he says, not knowing what the law is not an excuse, most definitely. But for someone like him who is a seasoned politician, someone like him who is a major stakeholder and an active actor in this whole policy and politicking and everything, he should have known better. Now, one of the reasons why people should vote you in, apart from you having, majority of the vote, is based on what? Character and learning. Maybe, yes, he overreacted. Maybe, he didn't act within the confines of the aviation law and everything surrounding it. But let us look at it from this angle. When I say those in glass houses should not throw stones, it is no news that our national flight, or whatever it is, carrier, right, has gone below, call it just below rocks. Because if you look at it carefully, this is a private airline. They are struggling also. They are struggling with the inconsistent fuel price, obviously to affect aviation fuel also. They're struggling with epileptic power supply. They're struggling with the fact that the economy is tough. And so give and take, even if they have the money to float airlines, they are also owing money to, because sometimes they get these airlines from people who manufacture them and pay them instrumentally. I don't know how true that is, but I'm just saying, for instance, they also have their own challenges too. So as someone who is a senior government official, you already know that your national carrier has a problem. And so these other people are stepping in to help, local flights and international flights. But say, Airpeace is about the only flight, if not the only flight, but maybe one of that can fly internationally. They earn that because of their efficiency. The other areas where they have done excellently well. Now, he has looked beyond all that and forgot the fact that when I say don't throw stones when you live in glass houses, you're part of the government. What has happened to our own, national carrier? You were in it. Have you has he one way or the other made a direct complaint in the Senate or wherever it is about our national carrier? Now you're talking about a particular company that may be, delayed for 1 or 2 hours, as the case may be. What if it was a technical issue? You just heard in India that there was a plane crash. Look, these things can happen anywhere. Don't think we are avoid from it. Yes, we are very religious in this country. But what I'm trying to say is anything could have gone wrong. Why there was a delay? Now, pay extra money. I don't know if that's correct. But one thing for sure is that if we had our economy and the country doing very well, you will have a lot of options. I don't know if it was traveling abroad to, or maybe within the country.
I think it was a domestic
flight. But even at that, our national carrier also back in the days, have domestic flights. So now this man has been able to make things happen in his own way. The owner of Airpeace, right? So that people can meet up their travels. And so you want to use your own veto power, quote and unquote, to make them look bad. There are other areas where they've done excellently well. But let's wait for that CCTV camera footage. That is one. On the other end, where I'm going to make a case for him, if he had decided to use a private jet, don't you think people will say, okay, he has money, so that's why he can fly whenever he is, and then squander money anyhow, and he'll be drawing EFCC to himself. maybe he has the money to buy a private jet. Most definitely he should. He's a rich man.
Okay.
But maybe he was also trying to, to look all ordinary the way Peter Obi used to move around the country. You can never know what's going through the mind of our politicians. But one thing for sure is that in this case, if he was trying to play the card of being a good citizen, not necessarily a good citizen, but a patriotic citizen by using our domestic and commercial flights like every other person, it backfired. Now that's backfired, and he now behaved, quote and unquote, allegedly they say he behaved badly by making so much noise about it. I think there are other ways he could have gone about it. So it's a two-edged sword thing here. One, he was trying to patronize Airpeace so that he can, on his own, now say, truly, these guys are quite efficient. Maybe or maybe not. Secondly, on the other hand, of course, it didn't come out well. On the other hand, Airpeace obviously might have their own challenges too. Remember, I just said there's economic, instability, right? The fuel prices are going, just inconsistent. And of course, cost of maintenance is there. What about salaries? In order for them not to shut down, look, to maintain efficiency, it's just this normal thing in economics. To maintain efficiency, something must suffer. And so maybe at that time, it was a human error. It could be something that had made, that flight not move as it went due.
But then he is saying that, they were exploiting, according to his own claims, he's saying that other people were allowed to this same flight, but they were only allowed after purchasing new tickets for as much as 250,000 naira.
Were they promised
it's an exploitation? Were they promised a refund? That's what I don't know at this time. That's what I don't know. Refund for what exactly?
Maybe for the first ticket that they bought.
I'm not sure.
Because if they're asked to pay another one, most definitely they'll say, look, we'll refund, but just so that you move, we'll put you in a different plane. It could be that case.
The details on that are not clear right now, but I guess this is a story that we'll have to just keep an eye on and just see how it pans out. Hopefully it's not one of those stories that, thinking about it here right now where I'm seated, I'm thinking, okay, so what next can happen? I mean, the flight has gone, it's gone. Can't we just focus on other things? But if they really need to look at the CCTV footage and whatever it is that needs to be done, I really don't know.
One more thing before we move to the next.
What would that do?
You see, let's see from this angle. The university also has a way of playing its own card.
Okay.
I know I just mentioned something I said was the plane crash in India.
Okay.
If there was a delay, probably that plane could have crashed.
You're already looking for
anything can happen.
You're looking for the Nigerian perspective of
I'm trying to mitigate
it.
Okay. So in everything that we do, like the religious people will say,
there's a reason for everything.
Let us thank God, right?
Okay. Let's really thank God. But let's move to this last story. This is the story that is really, the one I really am keen on. Now, the federal government has directed all ministries, departments, and agencies to go fully digital by the end of 2025. According to the head of Civil Service, DD Walton Jack, this move is aimed at improving efficiency and reducing paperwork. She confirmed that her office has already transitioned to a paperless system and expect others to do the same. The digitalization process is part of a wider reform plan, including training civil servants to operate in a more modern, technology-driven environment. Let's see some of the reactions, and I'll get your reactions because you know what? I think it was about time for us to get, completely digital. Like, why are we still doing papers? It's not even good for the earth. Anyway, let's see some of the reactions. White Shark says, which electricity will you use in operating the computers from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m.? They play my fans. Let's see more reactions. Roland says they should provide the policies and tools that will make them go paperless. Has a point there as well. Faisal says, we know we are not fully ready to implement this, but we want to put Nigerians to go through unnecessary stress, frustration, and delay. Not a single ministry or agency operates digitally within 60% efficiency, but we just want to jump from A to Z. I mean, talking about pulling the cart before the horse. And then Al says, this is long overdue. I'm happy for this directive. only thing that bothers me is the amount of money that will be budgeted for this. I mean, this is just a Nigerian being Nigerian, because really, you think about, I think one thing that comes with being Nigerian is you just think about the fact that even if they want to carry out policies or so-called, reforms that is for the benefit, quote, of the people, you just think about how some of the, the mago, let's use Nigerian, let me just calm down. You just think of all the mago that will take place. Then they will say, oh, it's like when the Aso Rock says they want to go fully, solar. You're just thinking about all the people that, that will chop some money, and then all the monies that will get. So thinking about this one, I say, oh, they'll form a committee now. Oh, the digital committee that is in charge of making sure that we go fully digital. And then there's somebody now that will be in charge of, they'll give some weird names and titles here and there, and then you just find monies going just like every local government project. Roads, the roads remain the same way, but you go to, I'm sure you still go to companies, and you go to organizations, you go to offices, and then I don't mean private offices, I mean government offices, and they'll say, they've not given us near allocation or chinlo paper, that kind of thing. So it's just worrisome when you think about it.
Again, as much as I don't want to say it should be, I will put it this way. If I have to speak for the public, I will say there is no country right now that is 100% digitalized such a way that papers are not being used. It is not possible. I will explain. This is technology. It has been, so scientists have said, because AI and every other thing and computers move fast and think fast and then do a lot of high-level storage for you, doesn't mean they can't crash. So if you solely say you're going 100% digitalized, remember this, as much as it's a great move, you're also creating far bigger space for you losing a lot of documents and losing a lot of information to hackers. There's some certain information that has to be on hard copy. Now, I'm not saying the copies wouldn't be, stored, or maybe, like rightly said, digitalized, or computerized. Even at that, I think you should have a percentage. Say, look, we want to achieve 70%. Let 30% be kept on hard copy. So in an event where there's a serious, technological breach or something, you don't lose all your files. And then you slam the country into Stone Age. Even in America, they still keep hard facts and hard files. I was watching the other day on the news where I think was it the police chief or so of one American state was saying, look, that since 1990 they've been storing hard copy files of criminal records and narcotics and everything. It's still piled up there. It is now they want to start sourcing out the ones they don't need and set those ones ablaze and make everything digitalized such a way that they are 70% inclined, or put it 70% enabled, and 30% still kept under hard copy. So I understand if she wants to make a case, right? The lady who's in charge, saying we want all ministries to go all digitalized and everything. But like the commentator on X, they said, do we have the things on ground to support these things? 24 hours power supply will include and require solar panel. Most definitely, because this thing is running continuously. If most of those portals, they tell you, go and register this, register that. After a while, the portals just shut off. Why? Because electricity is not running through, so it's not enough to sustain it. That's just one other thing. Another issue is that, look, if everything is 100% digitalized, it's not going to be bad, but trust me, you have to find a way to mitigate these things.
But I think that this is where platforms like, free ad for them, this is where platforms like Archive NG, so what they are trying to do is make sure that, all of our, paperwork, information and all of those things from the past, so they are modernizing it by making sure that they are keeping all of those files. But they are keeping it in a digital way. Do you understand? So there's a way to, I understand where you say, oh, you can't be completely eradicated, but what they're doing, if they work with, because we've seen how so many successful projects that come out successful in Nigeria, they have to collaborate with the private sector. So if they collaborate with an archiving and then do things like partner with them in the work that they are doing, I think that we can have it. But pretty much 90%.
Okay, well, so let's say 90%. But I want to find out something. What is driving this course? Is it that we're trying to save the planet?
Well,
because I don't think that's the case.
Maybe that's the case.
The only thing that I believe that we achieve will be that there will be less, like you said, mago. But in this case, why? Because most of those paper, secret files, that can easily be manipulated. But when you have something where some key people have access to it, how do you want to, go and manipulate those ones in those digital spaces?
Like she said, it's to improve efficiency. It's to reduce paperwork, and also more so to also train the civil servants, because I think that's really important for us now, because
to make them more
we can't be
enabled.
It's a very we're in technology, like we say every time. This we're in a technology terrain right now, so you cannot afford to not at least know how to do this basic stuff around on digital platforms. So if this is also a way to equip them, just make them, they're still not coming and say, please fill this form. Do you know how frustrating that thing is? They give you forms. There was a place I went to, and then they gave me forms to fill, and I was like, it's been a while that I've had to. I still fill forms, but now this day you fill online, and even if you have to fill the hard copy, and maybe for some reason they want hard copy, which I don't even know the reason, maybe a 2-page or maybe maximum, then the last page maybe you just have agreement and then signature. There's 3, but they gave me like forms. I've never seen it. This was last year. I was like, in this day and age. And I'm like, there's a
benefit to that too.
What's the benefit to it?
And is your handwriting immense good? No, I don't think so.
It's actually worrisome, because I'm worried about the young people now. But do they still know how to write?
Look, back in the days then when we were in secondary school, apart from the fact that you get the answer correctly, you have a score for good handwriting. Recently, I was trying to write something like,
your handwriting has changed.
I said, what's my handwriting looking like kindergarten? Yes.
You're typing.
Either typing or so I'm like, you know what? I think as much as those forms are quite cumbersome and voluminous to fill, it will also help your handwriting to remain intact.
How many times do you fill those forms?
I'm just trying to make a case.
This is your case. How many times do you fill forms? So is it every day that I'll be going to that place and give me a form?
And by the way, look, the more you do something, the more it is lodged into your DNA. So when you have kids, you pass those DNA things to them. So whenever they do anything, they are good at it. Really, after all, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So
you've given us this your quote, but that's as much as we can take this morning on the social listening segment. We hope you enjoyed it. We've had a very packed show this morning, from the news. We've gone to review the papers, and we've gone on to the big story where we talked about economics and then democracy and all of that. And now finally we've come to the social listening segment today, where we've also spoken about, we just finished speaking about eradicating paper and moving to a digitalized economy. We've also spoken about
some people delaying other flights.
People delaying flights.
They are people of interest.
Absolutely. And then our first story was speaking to am I forgetting?
Not at all. I mean, you got it right. We spoke about the digitalization.
That was the last one.
We spoke about Oshiomhole, and the first one was about, what was it again?
Why are we forgetting that?
But I'm sure they got it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for watching the social listening segment. Thank you for watching the BDTV Breakfast Show. My name is Elizabeth Musa.
And I'm Ikeja Valentine.
Keep watching BDTV.